Okay, hey, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have another fun review for you from the brand Casio. Yes, guys, Casio. A little bit about them. They were founded back in 1974. Their first watch was actually the Casiotron. The brand is Japanese in origin, and they're really known for their wide range of digital offerings from lines like G-Shock, Edifice, and Oceanus. In terms of the type of watch, this is an Annie Digi watch. Some key common characteristics and sign language. When you're looking for something that both has an analog and a digital display, it's exactly those two things: an analog and a digital display, and there are pretty much no rules apart from that. So this is the Casio Vintage AQ-800E-7A and it's a contemporary update on the 80s AQ-450 design featuring dual time functionality, and it is pretty sweet. It is super affordable. You can get it for $55.95 direct from Casio, or you can get it elsewhere, any place where it's in stock. I picked up this one from mastersintime.com for about $50.90. So deals are to be had on this one, and I have to say this is probably one of the coolest, if not the coolest, little Casio yet. I've reviewed quite a few on the channel. They all kind of end up filtering to my son, and honestly, this one I think I might hold on to for a while. So with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. All right, so this one is a looker. It has a lot of what we already like about the Casio vintage line, in terms of, actually let me give it a quick little wipe here off camera, get the little dust particles off of it, maybe even do some of it in front of the camera. So the great little chromed out kind of resin case with the steel band, and then of course it is very, very pliable, not super, solid or anything like that, but that, you kind of can't get mad at the price. But the differentiator here is that there's an actual analog dial. Check that out. I love that grid patterning. It totally reminds me of, grid paper back in school, graph paper, I should say. And then you do have, of course, your little window there for the standard digital time. And I think it just strikes a beautiful balance in terms of design. The overall shape is a little bit more rectangular and elongated versus the more square shaped silhouettes that you've seen on the channel, as well as throughout their collections in the past. So in terms of the dimensions here, you're getting 30.7 millimeters across. It is only 8.9 millimeters thick, and then it is 40.6 millimeters lug to lug. It has this chrome finished resin case, resin glass, and then on that analog display you're getting a grid pattern dial there, and then you're getting a polished hour and minute hand, no seconds hand. And then on the digital display you have quite a few little options there. You see the main time mode, and then you also get the date. So you're getting a month, day, date layout, or I'm sorry, month, date, day. So 9/9, and then Friday for the day of the week. And then your alarm adjusts. You can set that down to the hour and minute. And then from there you get the dual time, which mirrors the main time, except there's a little DL indicator. If I can, there we go. You can see on the screen, so it's the dual time. I keep that in 24-hour. You can choose for your main time and your secondary time zone to use, to 12 or 24-hour scale. I prefer 24-hour scale for the dual time, and then I use 12-hour scale for the main. That just helps me differentiate. And then you also do have a stopwatch, which can measure down to 1/10 of a second, which is a lot of fun when you need it. And then back to the standard time. And then in terms of the handset, it's actually adjusted here independently with this little pusher. You can take a pen or a little spring bar push tool and put that in, and then it kind of will slowly sweep to wherever you need it to. So yeah, it's a very simple layout in terms of what it does, but again, it kind of touches into dual time. Technically, you can do 3 time zones because you can, change up here. I think the main idea is for you to track 2 time zones here, and then you can just, with a pen, then set this to match. So I'm sure it's really meant to be more used that way, but if you wanted to, you could track 3 completely separate ones. Of course, here though, it's only going to be a standard 12-hour display, so AM, PM, tough to tell unless you're local to that time. So maybe set this to your local, then you have the dual time set to your home at 24-hour, and then whatever else you want to set in there if you have to make calls or anything like that. But this is a looker, guys. I mean, it's a little bit of a smudge magnet, but I mean that's comes with the high polished style, even though it's not really polished. But that finish, right? It's that mirror chrome finish. It would be great if they eventually did like a full metal version of this with brush body, but they don't really need to, because honestly, this is kind of what makes the watch fun and cool. Is that it's only $50, and it just has that look. It's not trying to be expensive. It just has this vintage air of coolness that I really, really like. So we get to the bracelet here. It actually has 18mm lugs, like we've seen on quite a few of their other models within this line, the Casio vintage line. It has a stainless steel bracelet. It's flared out to about 21mm up top, and then it goes down to about a 14.8 by the clasp. It has an adjustable slide lock, so basically you put your tool in here, lift this flap up, then you can arrange it up and down, and when you put it on, essentially you just take this little bar, you take this little hook, you hook onto it, push it down, and it holds it in place, and the tongue is underneath versus being out here flapping around, so there's no need for a strap keeper or anything like that. But this is a good looking piece, very retro in aesthetic, but yeah, I just really like the layout, and I think it has kind of a bit more of a special wrist presence, especially with that rather expansive and squared off analog dial. So with that said, let's actually get this piece on the wrist and see how it wears. All right, guys, as you can see on my 7¼ to 7.5 inch wrist, this wears actually really well, a lot better than other models within the line because it is slightly longer. Although at only 40mm lug to lug, it still is quite compact, but typically a square watch is going to wear a little bit larger, and it's only 30mm wide, and if that was a round watch, it would be completely unwearable for me. But as you can see in this square shape, and then with that flared 21mm top link there going into the 18mm hooded lug, it just looks really great. Even if I get up close and you get a little bit of lens distortion, it looks pretty large. You can see that even then it still doesn't look overly large. And then you get down here, this is how it's actually going to look. And then if you were to slowly, let's say, zoom the camera in, you'd notice that, yeah, maybe it looks a little bit smaller, right? If we just want to look in terms of a talking wrist, that's what we would be at. But I think it looks great. Look how low it wears. The light play on that bracelet, I think that is fantastic. So really, really beautiful, guys. I really dig that. I like the way it lays. Yes, of course, it's a fingerprint magnet. Check that out. Here and there, but when you wear something like this, I think this is like the perfect watch to, if you're ever going to go to, let's say, a watch meet, a gathering, and you're going to double wrist, you're going to have one watch on one wrist and one on the other. This is cool because it really gives you that dual time play on things, right? So you have a second, so you're tracking even more time zones, up to 3 on this one, and however many you can track on your other watch. So I don't know, there's just something fun about it. It's super lightweight and just really playful, and again, really handsome and well designed. If they made some premium take on something like this, I think it would sell pretty well, especially considering I have some premium G-Shocks that I think first glance you think, why would you pay that much for a digital watch? But sometimes the design just gets you, and for me, this has got to be the vintage Casio release of the year. This thing is awesome. It's really, really cool looking. So there aren't any, there's no lume to be found on here. There's not even a light up function to light up the smaller side. You would just essentially, look at this dial in the darkness and try to catch a little bit of light on it. So we'll still do a low light transition just so you guys can see kind of how the finishing and how these textures and everything render, but there won't be any loom included. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. All right, got my little off-camera lighting ready, and you can see that this thing has a lot of great light play and less than optimal lighting. Check out how uniformly the light glides over that brushing, which is really impressive, especially at the price. Yeah, you can see a couple of fingerprints in there that get exposed by this lighting, but you can also see that they've done a really nice job for a little $50 watch. Look at the way that this dial plays with and reflects the light. It can go from, a very almost milky and opaque looking color to deep grays, almost reversed. Look at that. It's like a negative where the grid lines are picking up reflection, but then the dial is black. So, and then you get here, it's a little bit washed out, interestingly enough, and then plays back with the finish on there. So very, very cool. Man, this is it's just a really great looking piece, and I just love that it's super cheap and it looks great. Like, that's awesome. It shows that good design is not just exclusive to very expensive watches. Sometimes you can have really great design in something that's, super affordable. So, closing thoughts for me on the wrist. This wears similar to other Casio vintage line watches, but I think less squared off proportions actually do add an extra touch of refinement there. I mean, I'm not saying you're going to be replacing this with a JLC Reverso, or this is going to be your JLC Reverso replacement, but I would say it has a little bit more of that type of character. Just because the general overall silhouette and shape, I think it looks cooler. It looks a little bit more robust, also because of the way that things kind of flow. So it just has, again, that kind of retro, vintage future. Like, this is what they thought futuristic was going to look like. And I don't know, there's just something that's fun about that kind of juxtaposition of time and space. So in terms of model variants, there's also an all gold version, which I was very close to pulling the trigger on, or a silver version like this, but with a black dial. So the black dial would also match with kind of the black surround, that digital screen. So it ends up feeling, for me anyway, a bit more monochromatic and kind of filling its space. It makes it almost feel like there's one large screen versus two separate ones. I liked that about this model and the gold model. There's a lot of separation between the digital display and the analog display. So it just highlights the fact that there's two big facets there that you can kind of play off of. So in terms of comparable models, there are tons of fashion watches that charge a lot more, that kind of to tap into this brand of nostalgia, but these little Casios offer a lot more authentic and purified take on that aesthetic. So although there are some very cool micro brands and fashion watches out there that can kind of key into that really cool, like, neo vintage look, Casio does it like really good for not a lot of money, and to the point to where anything is a treat and a surprise in terms of the quality, because you're paying so little for it that you can just replace it at any time. So they're really nice. Bottom line, for me, this is just another Casio vintage model that perfectly does retro digital right. Man, this thing is sweet. If you get one, get me in the wrist, tag me on Instagram. If you're not already following me, do that. You're missing out on a lot of watch, pocket knife, and other sneaker content, stuff like that. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked the video, please do hit like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.